So we're coming off hot from the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. We're going to break out a bunch of episodes, a bunch of topics that we find interesting. Of course, the topic we've got to start with is just how much all of this garbage is going to cost. Garbage is a strong word. It's fine. It looks fun. But the gamers have to rage. There's basically two opinions that we have seen online for all of this price discourse. One is cope, and Nintendo's really like a good guy and like tariffs and stuff. And then there's the other side that is Nintendo is trying to subject the gamers to servitude. And both are kind of cringe. Like, we are here to sort through all of this and kind of provide some much needed nuance to the conversation and, just sort out what we think here. Now, of course, here I'm joined with my twin brother, Matthew, and, just want to start the conversation off with the system itself. I feel like that's a much more open and shut case. Matthew, what do you think about the system price? We got $449 USD for the system itself and $500 if you want Mario Kart World with a bundle.
Outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. No, I mean, I think it's, it's funny. I was telling one of our mutual friends that, he was seeing from a lot of news publications that people were saying there's no way a Nintendo console is going to be over $350. And I never get these rules people have that they just make up for themselves. Like, there's no way there won't be a Mario 3D game at this Nintendo Direct. There's no way it'll be over $350, and both of those things happen. But but yeah, I mean, I think the price is it is pretty steep, especially when you bundle it with Mario Kart. Now you're getting a game with it, so I mean, it's it is what it is. But yeah, it's it's a little bit pricey, and I think these rumored, or I don't know if they're rumored or I think they're confirmed now, but some of these prices I'm seeing for the games is more so what's got me raising my eyebrows, like Donkey Kong.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get to that. But yeah, just to open and shut that case, the system price is fine. I mean, like, we were paying $300, I think, for the original Switch and $400 for the OLED. The prices of things have gone up. I don't know if you've noticed inflation or the price of literally everything. It has risen, and with that, the components rise. And of course, we're getting a little bit of a better system here. Instead of like 32 gigabytes on board, we get 256. That's pretty nice. The controllers are nicer. The magnetic Joy-Con things, all these cost a little more money to bring in. I think, like, while it's in the Sting range, like, ooh, that hurts a little bit. It's not anything outrageous. I think, especially with the benchmarks the system can hit with some games, to think that 120 FPS is possible on this, that HDR is in 4K at a $500 price point. Like, I'm totally happy with that. It's like the PlayStation 5. It's nowhere near as powerful as the PlayStation 5, but it's like kind of good enough. There's the further on we go into the console generations, there's less and less space in between. The Switch versus the PS5, it's like, oh my gosh, night and day. But this will be a little more competitive. And so for $500, it's also portable. Yeah, I mean, seems fine to me. The accessories, just to give some lip service to those, expensive, kind of dumb. The Joy-Con wheel set, I'm pretty sure those will just be hunks of plastic as they usually are, $20 a pop. The charging grip, which is a plastic hunk with a tiny battery in it, that's $35. A little pricey if you ask me. Pro controller at $80. I mean, we're just used to getting like absolutely roasted with this stuff. My hope is that the Switch 1 controllers work on the Switch 2, but like, let's be honest, gang, that's probably not going to happen.
Did they what about the price of those cameras that they want you to play with Mario Party Jamboree?
$50 for a webcam. I mean, given that they can kind of like cut you out of a picture that's not a green screen, maybe they're really good cameras. I'm going to hit the doubt button on that one and hope that you can like kind of hook up your own camera, because it is a neat feature set. And it's cool that there is a thing that you could do with it. But, the dock is $110. That seems kind of outrageous, but this dock seems to have like a fan and some capabilities to actually like boost the performance of the game. So like, hey, that feels a lot more reasonable than the dock that we did have, which was just literally like a dongle to get it onto your TV. So, it's much more valuable than the original one. So prices for the hardware itself, surprisingly, not really, that bad. It's, amidst all this talk of tariffs, especially the import duties that will be placed on Chinese goods, and we seem to be doing fine on the actual physical stuff. But you've heard the news, you've seen the headlines. We got to talk about these game prices, my G. We got Mario Kart World coming in at $80, Donkey Kong Bonanza at $70. And really, Matthew, the canary in the coal mine was during this presentation, they have this Nintendo Switch 2 welcome tour. And it's like, oh, this is kind of a cute way to like learn about how the system works. That could be a fun like educational project for my kids. $50? You want $50?
I don't know if you remember when we were watching the Direct Live, you're like, oh, that's a cool game. And I made a joke. I said that'll be $59.99. You started cracking up. And honestly, I was completely joking. Like, I really thought it would just be something that was bundled with the system. Because, it looks like something that just acts as a interactive tutorial on how to use the system. And so when I didn't even know it was $50, which is outrageous to me. But I just saw at the end, we started like cracking up when we saw it said it's a paid for add-on or something with a asterisk next to it. I can't remember, but I'm just like, man, that's just crazy to me. Like, that to me is just something that I feel like as a consumer, like you'd be going a long way just to like, hey, we made this really cool way of showing you how to use this technology, and it's just bundled with the system. Who's going to go out of their way to buy that?
No one, and that's why they're not even committing to a physical release. It is digital only. But yeah, I that is the most wild thing I've ever heard, even by Nintendo standards. Like, I thought the wildest thing they did recently was re-release a bunch of 3DS games that barely work on Switch. They're like the most like low effort ports I've ever seen from the publisher. And I thought that was about the lowest that they would dip. But this is absolutely insane. And like, I know that time and money and energy was put into this game, but like, come on. You're getting a 30% rip on every piece of software that will cross this console. This is a piece of software that you include in to like, sell the concept. What happened to Wii Sports, man? What happened to a little pack-in game that showed you the magic of the system? And this is something that PlayStation 5 did incredibly well with Astrobot. That game is incredible. And I'm talking about the one that's like just built into every PS5. It really sells you on the feature set of the system in a creative and amazing way. I'll quote Reggie, where Astrobot feels like a game that Nintendo should have made. And instead, they're the ones making the boring web browser, here's the system cooling engines. It's like, bro, stop.
And honestly, I thought it looked really creative. I thought it was a neat little thing, but it's just one of those, I feel like you'd go a long way to the average consumer who buys the system, that it's like, wow, they made this really creative and interactive tutorial that shows me how to use my $450 purchase in a fun way. And, I think you go a long way with people just being like, okay, here it is. Just have at it, So the fact that you're not only going to charge money for it, but you're going to charge $50. The same price that Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze was on the Wii U. Like, that's crazy to me. Think about like the quality of game Tropical Freeze is, and that's the same price as this. But go ahead.
It reminds me of the original Switch release where 1-2 Switch came out, and that was a really creative and interesting game, just not one that was worth any more than like $20. It should have been a pack-in with the system to really sell you on HD Rumble, and shocker, HD Rumble never took off because that Wii Sports effect is really important. And this is the funny thing, if you go to Reggie Fils-Aimé's book, he talks about his experience trying to get Wii Sports to be a pack-in game instead of a separate purchase. Nintendo of Japan like hates that idea. They're like, why are we giving something away for free? And it's like, no, dude, because people will like latch on, and like Wii Sports being free is like the birth of motion controls, the birth of Nintendo's return to dominance in the game industry. That they totally fumbled with the Wii U, but anyway, brief aside, we had the podcast that we did last week about the enhanced editions, and I have some interesting news to report there. Well, I guess we could start with the regular Switch upgrades. There are a list of Switch games that will be upgraded totally like free of cost, and like that's pretty neat. We got games like ARMS, we got games like Mario Odyssey, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are making an appearance. Maybe we'll look at that when that comes out. Like I've been waiting. Nintendo said, "Hey guys, we're gonna we're gonna fix this game," and then they just like never did. So
and it'll be on par with like a GameCube game.
That's what I mean, if we could at least get it running as smooth as Coliseum, that's all I really want.
What'd you say before? Like now it'll be running at a smooth 22 frames per second.
A buttery smooth 21. I mean, if it honestly, like even if it locked at like 12 frames per second, if it was just consistent, that would be fine. Like just something that like doesn't like vacillate wildly. But anyway, so those are getting upgrades. We don't know like what the upgrades are. That's the thing with this. They're free, but we don't know what they are. Are they just adding mouse support? Are they adding C button support? For something like Mario 3D World, maybe it's the C button. For something like Captain Toad, it's definitely mouse functionality. For ARMS, it's probably mouse functionality too. Like, I don't think they're doing a whole lot to these games, because if they were doing literally anything, they would charge money for it, as we're about to find out. Link's Awakening probably for like dungeon building, Echoes of Wisdom probably to fix that terrible UI that the game has, and then dude, I don't want to say it, but I'm gonna say it. I'm just like marking it in the sand. I think that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are going to get Switch mouse support and nothing else. I hope I'm wrong, but the cynic in me is just like, bro, we're about to get mouse support and nothing else, which would be nice, because that UI is also awful. But maybe we'll get a frame boost too. I don't even need the game to look any better. Like it looks bad. That's fine. Just like make it run okay. Like I just want it to like function. Yeah. I feel secondhand embarrassment whenever my kids are playing it and like I just see the game like wigging out on them. They have no idea what's going on. They're like, "Daddy, help me." It's sad.
It's funny that the updates are free. It's like I feel like they should be refunding us money and updating the game.
Yeah, I mean, well that's what kind of made me upset about the situation, because like I buy Pokemon Scarlet and like it's a mess. We hear about the multiplayer mode, so we like jump in and we play it a little bit, and within that first month they're saying like, "Oh, we promise guys, we're gonna fix it. We're gonna we're look into this." Nintendo issues a statement apologizing, and I'm like, all right, they'll do something, and they just never do. They issue patches, but like the game is still just as busted as it was on day one. Maybe there's a few less game breaking bugs, but like it's still an all around awful experience where 99% of the time you will feel the issues with it. And it's funny, I was listening to a review from the guy who keeps winning all the tournaments, Wolfie VGC. He was saying he couldn't finish the DLC because it gave him motion sickness from all the frame drops. And I'm like, this guy has like a relationship with Pokemon. He is like on their YouTube channel right now. He has a lot of reasons to not criticize Pokemon, but like that is the most sad thing I have heard in a long time. And yeah, it's gross. But let's talk about the third type of game. We've got the upgrade packs, which we alluded to this, and we'll have to issue an apology. You will get some sort of enhancement to New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe for free. Cool. That's something that I was hoping would be the case. Although I wouldn't have been surprised if they went in a different direction, as I'm not quite surprised with this whole thing. So we've got the upgrade pack system, and some games like Kirby and the Forgotten Land are adding what seems to be like a pretty substantial amount of content. If you look at the trailer that they uploaded after the fact, it seems like there's a lot of like neat things they're adding to that game. Mario Party Jamboree seems like kind of, more so. They're really trying to push that like that camera play thing, which is funny. Like you're gonna have to pay for the Mario Party Jamboree upgrade and then pay for a camera. We're talking about $70 more that you need to invest in Mario Party Jamboree.
Yeah, and that's like, imagine if you want to play that with 3 of your friends.
Well, everybody has to have their own Switch and their own camera online.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's like, this is one of those situations like Zelda Four Swords, except the technology's so much better now. You don't need to make this high a barrier of entry. You could make the upgrade free at least. We've got Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom that literally just increase like frame rate resolution and load times, which you would think would happen with like that would like naturally happen with every game. That's what you would think because like you're on more powerful hardware, but for some reason there's I mean I don't know, I'm not like a super technical person, but like you would think that it would just work better and faster and have some better visuals, but like what do I know? Those will actually be free if you are a Nintendo member, but just the Zelda games. I thought it was like for the whole thing in general, and I was like, man, what a great addition to the Switch Online membership that we're going to get all these free upgrades to our old library. It's just for those 2 games. If you want Kirby, Pokemon, Metroid, you gotta buy the game and then pay for the upgrade, or you gotta buy the Switch 2 Enhanced Edition upgrade. And what's kind of unclear too is like if I buy, let's say I got a old Switch and a new Switch. Let's say I buy Metroid Prime on the new Switch. Can I also like move it over to my old Switch if my kid wants to play it handheld there, or like, I don't know. But yeah, that's it's kind of a mess. It looks like pricing wise, we're talking about $20. What do you think about that, Matthew?
I mean, I think, it's not, I think, as bad as we were assuming it was going to be. I mean, I think based on our last video, just, how cynical we can be sometimes, and especially when it comes to Nintendo, just assuming the worst case scenario when it comes to these things. I mean, this is the same company that charges like
$50 for a tech demo,
or like $200 for an SD card with a Mario PNG on it. But it's, yeah, Mario, wahoo, wahoo. But it's just one of those things. So I think we assume the worst case scenario. So I think just based on that, and what it, the result of, what it ended up being, I think is, I think it's okay. Like, I think, for paying for, a, some form of an upgrade for a negligible price is not a bad deal. I will say it feels like a bad deal if you've never owned these games, because seeing Kirby and the Forgotten Land being priced at $80 if you never own the original on the Switch, that feels very steep. Like, it just feels like if I'm gonna buy that game, it just feels like I wouldn't buy it for the Switch 2 version. Like, I would just I don't even know if I'm articulating this the way that I want to, but I just feel like when I look at that and I see it's $80, I feel like that barrier of entry for a game that was originally on the previous console just feels like it's a little too steep on its own, and so...
Yeah, although what I can say, those are some kind of like nice situations where let's say you come late to the Switch 2, you didn't have a Switch 1, you can just buy the regular one and then upgrade later, and it seems like the same price. Like, you're not getting like ripped off either way you choose to go about that path. Or like, let's say you can't afford a Switch 2, or the scalpers get the best of the market this year, you can start playing, say, Pokemon Legends on here and then transfer over or pay the $20. Like, I mean, I was absolutely ready for Nintendo to start just like deluxifying everything at a $70 price point. This is still not like wonderful, but it's okay. I mean, it's basically $20 DLC. The ones where it feels like kind of ripoff on is Zelda, and I think they know that too. That's why they're bundling it in with the online membership. Like, that feels like kind of a rip. But the sneaky thing they're doing is they're using it to like bump up the price of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Where like, it's like the console price. That $450 price point is kind of just like a fake thing. I'm sure it'll sell out in the early days of the Switch 2, but like they're rolling out this new Apple type of strategy where if you go on apple.com, you look at an iPad and you're like, starts at $300, pretty good, you know? For like a sub-computer type of thing, that sounds like a pretty good idea. Oh no, it's got no space on it. This iPad is awful. No one can really get use out of it because you're going to run out of space. It's going to be obsolete super fast. But this next one, you could like triple your storage if you just spend $500 instead. And so that's kind of the price ladder thing that Nintendo's doing now with the system price. And they're very much doing the same with these games too, where it's like, well, Breath of the Wild is a $60 game, but if you really want to get the most out of it, you're going to have to shell that extra $10-20 to get what you really need out of it. And so, yeah, it's kind of weird, kind of gross. They're using it to kind of like inflate the value of their games, which game value is a whole other discussion that like, on one hand, I think it's absolutely fine if the next GTA game wants to be $100. Those games are huge. They last for years. They only make them every like 5 to 10 years. If that kind of game wants to be 100, like whatever, you know, and you can kind of be the judge on whether that's worth it for you or not. For games like, you know, let's say the next Yoshi's Crappy World, and it's like, you know, it's side scrolling. It's not super ambitious, but they want to charge like 80 for it. I'm like, Mario Kart World, we can jump to that next. Like, I don't think that's a terrible price point for it. Crucify me.
Yeah, I think the only issue I have with it is that it's like, you know, and this is the problem I've always had with when prices in games in the last few years is like, what do you use to measure the value of a game? You know, to me, it's very strange when a game like Metroid Prime Remastered comes out, which is a beautiful remaster. It's actually a true remaster in the sense that the visuals have been like completely updated, you know, in the same vein as Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, where it feels like you're looking at a new game that belongs in this generation as far as visuals are concerned and performance. And so, you know, that game's $40, and then you get, you know, and we're the biggest Donkey Kong fans in the world. We were very excited when Country Returns HD was coming out, just because it's like, you know, we've been starved of Donkey Kong for so long. But, you know, the fact that that game, you know, performs and looks the way that it does, and you're charging $60 for that, for a game that's also been re-released before in the past, you know, on the 3DS, like, it just feels like I've always just had this issue of like, what do we use to determine the value of these games? And so I feel like with Mario Kart, to be quite honest with you, I don't think it's because they feel like, oh, this game, you know, has this amount of content which justifies this price because of the value it brings. I think they're just coming up with an arbitrary number and probably banking on the fact that, hey, everybody loves Mario Kart. It's, you know, it's always one of the best-selling games on every console it's been on, or at least since the Wii. And so it's one of those things. I think they're just seeing if they can push the limits of what they can charge, you know?
Well, and again, coming back to that price ladder analogy, well, if you want a cheaper Mario Kart, we've still got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for $60. It's a great value. Yeah. It kind of like simultaneously justifies the $60 price point, which should have dropped by now, along with justifying the $80 price point. And, but yeah, I mean, like, that's the way pricing actually works. Pricing works with like, how much can I squeeze out of your cold, dead hands? And, that stinks, you know. I don't think it serves anybody particularly well. Like Metroid Prime Remastered had way more business being a $60 game than Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, and you know, but that's just like more people buy Donkey Kong games. That's the just cold hard truth, and you got to kind of get what you can get, and yeah, they are going to get what they can get. Like they're also waging war on retailers, but I guess before we get to that, so we've got the $80 price point for Mario Kart. Who knows why they're charging that much for that game? I mean, you know, obviously it's going to be huge. It's probably going to be their number one game on the console for its entire life cycle, and it looks like it's going to be more of a service type of game where they'll probably like continuously add characters and content. similar to Splatoon, similar to what they did with the booster pass. I think we could very much see something like that as the game goes on. But Donkey Kong Bonanza, and believe you me, you've heard us on the Kong Compendium breaking down all sorts of Donkey Kong content in the past and how we got here. We will be back to peel apart this game. That is a much longer podcast that we'll have to wait simmer. We're going to see if there's any more content for the live treehouse, but that game is coming in at $70. Matthew, how do you feel about that?
Sorry, there's one thing I wanted to mention before I got into that, but one thing on the value conversation that I just wanted to bring up that I thought about from before is that do you remember when Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze was being ported to the Switch, and that was a $60 game, and it was being ported around the same time as Hyrule Warriors was from the Wii U, but it included all the characters they added to the 3DS version or something. And I remember that was a big conversation then about, people would be like, man, Hyrule Warriors has all these characters, so that therefore it makes this a more valuable game. And that's why I think it's hard to like kind of measure value, because in my eyes, I think Tropical Freeze is one of the best 2D platformers of all time. And I think that 10-hour experience is much greater than like the 50 hours I'd put into, Zelda Dynasty Warriors, mashing, a button 4 times and then pressing another button. Like, I just think, that's one of those things. But again, how do you measure that? Do you measure it by how long the game is, how many characters are in it? So
yeah,
it's just a tough...
Those games are so funny because you burn through the content in like 10 hours and then it just keeps throwing, the same exact things at you. Hyrule Warriors absolutely like destroyed my mind, body, and soul with like how many times I had to fight that black creature where you had to cut his toes.
From Skyward Sword.
Like, it was just another one and another one and another one.
Yeah, and it's like,
those games are... But like technically, like, that's why like I don't judge games' value on like their length. You have to judge them on their quality, which again is like this hard thing to grasp at, because like a multiplayer game, well, you could play that forever and like the metagame evolves, and
it's also quality subjective.
Is like the same.
That's the other thing, is that it's totally subjective on like, while you and I agree that Tropical Freeze is like 100 times the game that Hyrule Warriors is, it's like that might not be the case for somebody else. And so to bring it back to Mario Kart, I just think like I said, I think there's no rhyme or reason why they're charging this price. I think they're just like, I mean, everybody loves Mario Kart, and let's see if we can get away with this essentially. But as far as you were asking me about Donkey Kong Bonanza. I mean, I think that's totally fine. I mean, listen, you and I are the biggest, like I said, Donkey Kong fans. I mean, we have a Donkey Kong YouTube channel, for crying out loud. But, I think it's one of those things that, the $70 price tag is in line with what the games on that console are going to cost anyway. So, like, yeah, I mean, I have no issue with that. But, that's kind of the funny thing for me personally, is that, I'd much rather play that game than Mario Kart, even though I was I was an avid Mario Kart 8 player all the way since the day it launched on Wii U. But it's just, again, like do I think it should be $10 less than Mario Kart? I don't know. But I think the price tag's fine, because that's in line with what the market is for Switch 2 games. So, I just am afraid that we're going to get into this territory of like just creating arbitrary numbers for games just out of thin air. Like, this game is $100 because I don't know, like Super Smash Bros. If they make another game and it's like Ultimate and there's like, 120 characters, and then, this should cost $100 because this is unprecedented, or something like that. Like, I don't want to get into that, because I feel like it just opens up this can of worms that nobody wants to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, and that's where like the whole like standard pricing, depending on the game, has either been really convenient or really annoying, for games that are obviously, in a lot of ways, Tears of the Kingdom should have cost less than Breath of the Wild because they're reusing a ton of assets. But like, yeah, it's a very weird thing. And so we're looking at, I think, a standard price of 70. What they seem to be kind of communicating is the standard price is 70. If we really think we can hook you, we're going to do 80. So like the next 3D Mario might be 80, the next Zelda might be 80, the next Smash will probably be 80, and Smash kind of makes sense. It's $80. I mean, say what you will about any Smash title, they have tons of content. I mean, just like it, all the licensing that they have to do to like create the rosters that they do. Like, I mean, it is a lot of content. So, it's like fair enough. And so that's kind of the perspective that I come into this with. I've had a PS5 for 5+ years now. So like I'm used to the $70 price tag. It stinks. But it is what it is. And, the best way to communicate to Nintendo that you don't like the price tag is just not buy it.
Yeah,
that is totally an option. And I know you were saying you might just outright skip Mario Kart World. We're starting to protest.
And the thing
gamers
is
rise up.
Yeah, and the thing is it's not even, I mean, listen, I feel like, I'm in a really good place financially, so it's not even like a place of, I don't, this is going to hurt my pockets to throw down on this game, but at the end of the day, I'm a man of principle, and I just think, to me, this is going to set a dangerous precedent, in my opinion, because again, I just think it's going to open the door of, we should be able to charge any random amount for a game just because we deem it to be worth that much, and I just don't like the idea of that. I like having like a market price for things that you want to stay within, and so I did tell you this before the podcast, though, that I do think there's a possibility, though, that they're charging more for Mario Kart because they want to incentivize people buying the system. Because if you buy the system bundled with Mario Kart, you save $30 on the game, which is a pretty big difference. I mean, that's, quite a chunk that you're saving. And so I think this is an attempt for them to really heavily incentivize, like, buying units. Now, you would argue that if you're buying Mario Kart World, it's because you're buying a Nintendo Switch 2, but I just think, again, like, they really want to, like, make it seem like the clear-cut option is, like, I need to buy this system. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. Like, I mean, that's the sad truth, and this has been true for, like, since, I don't know, forever. Nintendo has never been the system of like cheaper games. On the GameCube and Wii, they would do these like Nintendo Selects and sometimes like discount $60 games that were $50 down to $20, and that was like really cool. I think that Nintendo has been gone for a really long time. I mean, Mario Odyssey is still $60. All these games are still 60 or 50. And at the same time, like, I don't know, like, inflation is a thing. Now, one thing that everybody's been talking about with this is like, oh, it's the tariffs. Because there's been a lot of consternation, a lot of geopolitical battling with tariffs, specifically with the United States. And I started to look into this a little bit because I'm like, oh man, maybe that is the thing here. I mean, like, that it will affect the prices of goods in the U.S. Small problem with that. Daniel Ahmad, I'm probably saying his name wrong. He is with Nico Partners. He's a director of some sort there, game analyst. Definitely knows his stuff about the business. He was saying like, tariffs don't affect digital goods. And since they're already going with the strategy where they're declaring war on physical games and trying to move everybody away from that, there really isn't a reason for the software to be as expensive as it is, at least because of tariffs. Now, is Nintendo trying to bump the price of their software so that they can make up for losses should the tariffs come to pass? Maybe. I think you could make that argument. I would make the counter argument that they're going to make the money anyway because they get 30% of literally every piece of software sold on the system. But that's neither here nor there. The tariff chat also kind of breaks down when you consider that the prices are being raised everywhere, and not just America. Japan, funny enough, has a cheaper Switch that is region locked that you can get for I think 364 USD. I think the yen is kind of weak right now, but like everywhere else, it sounds like the prices are getting bumped up quite substantially. So I don't think it's a U.S. tariff thing, unless Nintendo's kind of using that as the opportunity to just like bump the price way up, because that is the new strategy. I think they call it greedflation, where like, oh no, there's a catastrophe. This is really going to affect pricing. Oh wow, it doesn't really affect pricing that much, Bob. Why don't we just bump up the price anyway?
Yeah, well, I think that's more
what's going
likely
on
to
here.
be what's going on. But like I said, I think in the case of Mario Kart, it may just be trying to incentivize the bundle, because I think that, there's a real psychology around like how people price things in order to make them want to buy something. And I think if you make it clear cut that like, man, I'm getting a steal of a deal by buying this way, by bundling it with my system, it just gives the consumer the perception that like, oh, I'm going a much better route by doing it this way, So I think it probably is a combination of those things, like what you're talking about with tariffs, and then just also like the, just kind of psychology behind like, well, if I buy Mario Kart on its own, I have to pay $10 more than I would normally pay for a Switch 2 game. But if I bundle it with my system, I'm saving $30. And so I feel like there's a degree of that is going into this, but I can tell you what I am afraid of, and that's I don't know if this has been confirmed, but as far as like the game apparently costing more money if you buy it physically, I think I saw $90. I don't know if that's been confirmed or not, but that to me, just speaking of dangerous precedents being set, that's the one I think I'm most afraid of, even though I pretty much exclusively buy my games digitally these days. But I just think that's one of those things that I would see that they would, if they are doing that, it's really to try and, what am I trying to say? Cut the retailer out in this case, or cut out the middleman, so they just get 100% of the profit, which makes a lot of sense. But I just think it's one of those things that, to me, it's kind of ridiculous to imagine like having to pay more money if you just choose to buy your games the way that they would prefer you not to do so.
Yeah. So like I said before, Nintendo has declared war on physical retailers. It's always been this relationship of like begrudging cooperation. Nintendo used to rule the retailers with an iron fist back in the 80s and early 90s, and really control what they could do and couldn't do. It was incredibly difficult for Sega to even like get onto store shelves, because if you upset Nintendo, then they're not going to give you any stock, and that's going to be a problem for your revenue as a store. So they would love to return to that age. They love having control over all of these retail partners. And as Microsoft has kind of like pulled out of stores almost entirely, like they're fading away fast. PlayStation has a presence there, but they're pushing their own digital stuff. Like, yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of losing that battle, and consumer behavior suggests that, yeah, everybody's cool with digital. We're signing away some of our rights when we buy digital. We can have our license revoked. Like if our Nintendo account gets deleted, can we re-download our games? It's like, I don't know. There's probably something where it's like, if you break the terms of service, then you lose all your games. And so like nothing beats having the physical copy on your system. But yeah, it's also like entirely true that it costs more money to physically manufacture a game. Now, this is another one of those price ladder things too, where like if you buy digitally, it's cheaper digital, so the higher physical costs kind of makes sense if you think about it. It's kind of like a scummy thing they're doing, but it's been reported that in certain regions it's going to cost a little more for physical copies of the game. Now, I don't believe we don't have US pricing details. So this could be just like a European problem, which in that case, sorry, boys. America. You guys get free healthcare. We get cheaper video games.
Equal trade-off, if you ask me.
Yeah, we get the red food dye in our Doritos. Yeah.
Gamer fuel.
The true gamer fuel. It's not really gamer fuel unless it's also giving you cancer. But yeah, so the like for the UK price of like Donkey Kong Bonanza, we got 66 European dollars or pounds, maybe. I don't know. They all look the same to me. I'm gonna say 66 pounds digitally, 58 pounds, or 58 pounds digitally, 66 pounds physically. I mean, dude, you know, this is the one thing. Like Mario Kart being $80, that's kind of nutty. You know, I'm there with you. The museum game being 50, I'm ready to storm Kyoto with you. The physical copy costing a little bit more. I mean, like, I don't know, dude. I think this is a different story where like the physical gamers finally have to pay like a little more, even though their games cost more to make. You know, it's just like.
But I think it's more. It's just like to me, the problem I have is that you're already charging more than I think any console game has ever gone for, at least as in recent memory. Like I can't think of a game in the last couple of console generations that sold for
but
$80,
also,
and then it's like if you were selling it for 60 and then the physical version 70 or 70 and 80, something like that, I could more so understand it. But 80 is already pushing it, but like almost $100 for, I mean, I don't know. That's just on another level.
yeah. So I mean, the total price is totally meant to start disincentivizing the physical purchase of games. That's for sure. And that's kind of weird and gross, but you know, it's like, I don't know. Am I going to shed a tear for Target and Walmart? It's just like, not really. The other thing is, I mean, the real story is that if you've been buying digital, you've been being ripped off for like 15 years straight. I'm in that camp. I've been buying digital since it was an option, just because like, I don't know, dude. It's just like, I have the older I get, the less space I have for stuff, especially game stuff. You know, like I don't have the space to have these elaborate library collections that you guys do on your YouTube channels where you've got like 5 million games. I love that for you. That sounds awesome. But like, you know, I don't have the space, nor do I have the time to like drive out or like do shipping for everything. Obviously there is a carbon component where, you know, there's so much more. You know, if you're one of those environmental folks, sorry, is the physical games. But yeah, so I've been buying digital. It's convenient to just like click the home button, boot up a different game. You know, I share my Switch with like 2 kids, and when my other 2 kids get older, like we're just gonna be popping around. So like I totally don't mind the digital thing. I've been being ripped off for 15 years. Now I'm gonna get a little, and here's where the switcheroo comes. From my perspective, what Nintendo wants me to think is, oh, I'm finally going to get a little bit of a discount for buying digital. Which is not true. It's just they're going to screw the people who are buying it physically, as well as screw me. Right. So that's, it's really funny. Like, it's nuanced, but also, like, yeah, they're just totally being,
well, that's what I said.
If they're going to see how much they can squeeze. Because they can always go down, but they can't really go up. You know, yeah, like if this is a 3DS situation where this launch is a total disaster, they can just bump the games down $20.
Well, that's why I was going to say, like, to me, it's one thing if they were selling a $60 game for $50 digitally. Like, to me, that would make total sense, you know? Like, take it under what the normal price is for something and give me a little bit of a deal for buying it the way that you want me to buy it so that you take a bigger profit margin, you know? But the fact that you're already selling it to me, like this is what I said, like Mario Kart World is already more expensive than any Nintendo game has ever been, to my knowledge. And then you're going to charge even more on top of that unprecedented number just to buy it physically and actually own it yourself. Like, I just think it's honestly absurd. And yeah, I mean, that's just one thing I can't get on board with them with. I just think it's just flat out ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, although like the thing undergirding this is that like games have not kept pace with inflation. We've been spoiled in some senses by the cost of games. Now, have we really been? No, it's just like, you know, if you're on, say, the PlayStation ecosystem or whatnot, the AAA sphere, $60 is always the entry price. Now $70 is the entry price, and if you actually want like the full game, you have to pay more, like 100, 120 for all the bonus DLC and all that stuff that they carve out of the game to sell back to you. So like it's always been kind of a crummy situation. I will say, like, I like the Nintendo approach more, where it's just like, hey man, this is really expensive. You can buy it or not. Rather than the like AAA third party strategy of like, hey, buy this game for $6. Oh, but if you want this, you're gonna have to spend $10 more. Oh, and if you want a funny hat, you're gonna have to spend $10 more on that. You know, I've seen, excuse me, I've seen Trevor go down that path with the Final Fantasy games, and like him buying all these extra like summons and stuff. Like it's kind of silly, and you don't need to buy it, but at the same point you're getting like 93% of the game, and then they're carving out a bunch and selling it to you at a premium. That stinks too. I'd rather you just come up with a price that you feel like is fair, and I'll decide if I want to go with it. So like, I respect the game. The part of it of just like, you know, this is what we feel like we want to sell it for, to keep pace with inflation, yada yada yada. Because, you know, they're kind of locking in on price, not just for this particular moment that we're in, but also like 5 years in the future, where like, who knows where the economy will be by then. AI is a bubble. It's going to pop. Like, that's going to be absolutely disruptive to the world economy, which is propped up a lot by giant tech companies that are promising that AI is going to revolutionize things. I don't know if it is going to or not, but, you know, like economic factors like that. I mean, you know, they can always drop the price. And so they're starting out high. And what I've noticed about Nintendo is they're being very, it's almost like they're ashamed of themselves. You know, like, you know, when you come home and you look at your dog in the eyes, he's looking at you back, and you're like, did you poop in my shoes again? And they start just like slowly walking away and not looking at you. That's kind of how they're treating this pricing situation. They took a big dump in all of our shoes. And they're like, well, the only way you can see the pricing is like, you got to log into the Nintendo website. You got to go to Mario Kart. You got to swipe all the way down through this crazy website with all these effects. And then like, you know, then I can't even find the price. Like I got to scroll like 75% down the way to just see like, oh yeah, you're hitting me with that thick $80 price tag. It's really funny. It's really funny to see, because you can tell they're kind of ashamed of themselves.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So, that is the pricing saga. As we said, you know, it's kind of funny at the top of the episode. We were like, oh, it's nuance, but like, there's not really anything different that you do with this information. You buy it or you don't. What I can say is that if you want any platform that respects your dollar, you got to hit up the indies. You got to hit up PlayStation games that came out 3 years ago, and you got to hit PC. Like, Nintendo is not the platform for you if you're looking for a deal. They have never been a good deal. They will never be a good deal. It is in their DNA to be stubborn. Like, they would rather a game cease to exist than for you to buy it at a cheaper price. Because if they just let it cease to exist, they can sell it again to you 10 years later with a cheap upscale and charge more than they originally did. Like they did with Luigi's Mansion, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. The list goes on. And that trend is not stopping. The train is rolling forward. But that's about all I got for this subject, Matthew. What are your closing thoughts?
Please don't do it, Nintendo, like the title of our last video.
You know, it's funny. That particular angle of the video kind of aged like milk, but this is almost worse, because instead of getting ripped off on games that we've already played and we have no problem skipping, we're getting ripped off on like the literal launch titles of the game, of the whole system. Like, there's not many options to play. You look at the launch lineup. Bravely Default's going to be $40 if you want to play a Nintendo 3DS title on your Nintendo Switch 2. That's going to be available for you. And that is that's kind of a wild price too. Let's be honest. That's a 3DS game. But that's what we got. So like, you know, your choice here is to buy it or to not, you know. Let us know if we need to change the podcast name to PlayStation the People. I will personally, like, I don't know. I'm cynical and jaded. I'll be buying these games anyway because, like, I just think, like, it is a race to the bottom, and might as well have fun on the way down. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, well, and at least we have great games to look forward to. I mean, like, and listen, I'll say this as a closing thought. Like, one thing I'm really thankful for is if anyone knows me from any, whether it's Kong Compendium, if it's Catrello Games, whatever else we do here at We the People, you would know that I'm just really burnt out on anything Mario. I just feel like it's like, I understand why Mario's so successful and why they make so many games for Mario, but I'm just so tired of, like, anytime they have a good idea, they just want to apply it to something Mario or Zelda related. And so to get a direct where really the three big announcements were Donkey Kong, Kirby, and then Mario Kart. But I just think about how Metroid Prime 4 is a major game that's coming out for them. And the fact that those are three, like, big franchises, but they come and go, to a certain extent. Not really Kirby, but Kirby sometimes flies under the radar, no pun intended. But I'm just really excited. And that's why, like, kind of like what you said, I'm not happy with some of these things, but I'll probably cave and buy some of them anyway, especially Donkey Kong, just because I feel like I'm, like, it's almost an obligation that I have to financially support that. But yeah, it's one of those things. Hopefully, they'll go back on some of these decisions that we're not super fond of, but we'll see.
we will see. So, like I said, much more to come. We got to talk about Donkey Kong. We got to talk about Kirby's Air Ride. We got to talk about, I don't know if there's anything to say about Mario Kart, but we're probably going to be delivered some sense of information over the next few days. So we'll wait to do that podcast, not say something like, oh my gosh, they don't even have Cranky Kong. And like, oops, Cranky Kong's in the game. So we will be back with that to talk about, is Diddy Kong being replaced by a purple grimace shaped nugget? I sure hope not, but we will have to discuss. So have a good one. All you out there, have fun at that second job. It's time to start selling our kidneys so we can afford to play video games. Bro, if you didn't sell your kidney to afford the latest gamer system, are you even a gamer? Are you even a gamer? If you're not crypto cred maxing, like, what are you doing?